I was standing in a grocery store aisle about 3 weeks ago, staring at a shelf that was half empty, not because of a storm, not because of a holiday, just because prices had gone up again and people were starting to buy differently. And I realized, most of us are one bad month away from wishing we'd been smarter about our pantry. This video isn't about fear, it's about being the person who already figured this out before everyone else did. I've been doing a lot of research into foods that genuinely last, not just for a few months, but for years, sometimes decades, sometimes longer than you've been alive. And number 8 on this list actually stopped me cold. I had to double check it. You won't believe number 8. We'll get there. If you haven't subscribed yet, do it now, because this channel is where you come when you want to know what's actually happening, before the mainstream catches on. Let's get into it. Item number 1, white rice. Let me start with the one that most people think they already know about, and most people are getting wrong. White rice is one of the most storage-friendly foods on the planet. But here's what I didn't understand for a long time. The way most people store it at home, it only lasts 2 to 5 years. That's it. The reason it can last 25 to 30 years, and that number is real, it comes from long-term food storage research and is cited by emergency preparedness organizations, is because of oxygen. Oxygen is what breaks rice down over time. Moisture is the other enemy. I looked into this myself after I noticed my open bag of rice in the pantry smelled a little off after about 18 months. I thought I was imagining it. I wasn't. The oils on the surface of the rice were going slightly rancid from air exposure. The fix is straightforward. You buy white rice in bulk. Walmart sells 20-pound bags for under $15 right now. You transfer it into 5-gallon food-grade buckets with oxygen absorbers and gamma seal lids. You label it with the date. Done. You don't need a bunker for this. You need a closet. And when prices go up next year, and they will, you are not scrambling. This is about protecting your budget, not panicking. And this is the easiest first step. Item number 2. Honey. I want to tell you something about honey that most people find hard to believe until they actually look it up. Archaeologists found honey in Egyptian tombs that was over 3,000 years old. They tasted it. It was still good. That is not a myth. That is documented food history. Honey does not expire. It can crystallize over time, which many people mistake for spoilage. It isn't. You warm it up gently, and it returns to liquid. The crystallization is actually a sign of real, high-quality honey. What makes honey last forever comes down to its chemistry. It has extremely low moisture content, high natural sugar concentration, and trace amounts of hydrogen peroxide produced by the bees themselves. Bacteria simply cannot survive in it. Mold cannot grow in it. I started buying raw honey from Costco about 2 years ago, and I keep 3 large jars in my pantry as a permanent rotation. The current price there is still reasonable compared to what smaller retail stores are charging, and that gap is growing. The practical move here is simple. Buy a few large jars of pure raw honey. Store them in a cool, dark place with the lid tightly closed. Do not refrigerate it. That speeds up crystallization. Honey also doubles as a medicinal pantry item. It has real antimicrobial properties and has been used for wound care. You're getting a food and a household utility in one jar. The price of honey has been trending up for 2 years. Get ahead of it now. Item number 3, salt. This one sounds boring. It isn't. Salt is one of the oldest preservation tools in human history precisely because it doesn't need preserving itself. Pure salt, with no additives, has an indefinite shelf life. It will last as long as you own it. Here's what I didn't know until recently. Iodized salt has a shelf life of about 5 years because the iodine can degrade. But non-iodized pure salt, sea salt, kosher salt, rock salt, pickling salt, lasts essentially forever. I keep 2 types in my pantry now. A large canister of regular iodized salt for everyday cooking, and a 25-pound bag of non-iodized pickling salt that I bought from a restaurant supply store for under $12. That bag will outlive most of my appliances. Salt also serves as a preservation agent for other foods. If you're ever in a situation where you need to extend the life of meats, vegetables, or fish, salt is how people survived before refrigeration existed. This is knowledge your grandparents had that our generation mostly lost. One thing to watch for: cheap table salt with anti-caking additives can clump or lose effectiveness over time. Go pure. The price difference is minimal. This is the kind of thing that seems like nothing until it becomes everything. Item number 4, white vinegar. Most households have a bottle of white vinegar somewhere under the sink or in the back of the pantry, but most people don't know it essentially never goes bad. White vinegar is acetic acid diluted in water. Its pH is so acidic that microorganisms cannot grow in it. There's no expiration in any meaningful sense. The FDA requires manufacturers to print a date, but that date reflects peak quality for culinary use, not safety or effectiveness. I buy the 1-gallon jugs at Walmart. The price is still under $3. That same jug will clean, sanitize, preserve, and cook for as long as you keep it. I looked up the manufacturer data on this because I didn't believe it myself. Most major producers acknowledge that properly stored white vinegar has an indefinite shelf life. The key phrase is properly stored. Keep it sealed, away from direct sunlight and at room temperature. From a practical standpoint, white vinegar does 3 things other pantry items don't. It's a cooking acid. It's a cleaning and disinfecting agent that you can use on food contact surfaces. And it's a preservation medium. You can use it to make quick pickles and extend the life of fresh vegetables for weeks. Buy 4 or 5 gallons when they're on sale. Store them in a cool, dark space. This is one of the cheapest insurance policies for your household. You don't want to be paying more for this 2 years from now when you could have stocked up for almost nothing today. Item number 5. Pure vanilla extract. This one is on the list because it surprises people every single time, and I think it deserves more attention than it gets. Pure vanilla extract, the real kind, not imitation, has an indefinite shelf life. It contains alcohol, typically 35% or higher, which prevents any microbial growth. It's essentially shelf-stable the way spirits are shelf-stable. The reason this matters practically is the price. Pure vanilla extract has experienced significant inflation over the last several years because of vanilla crop shortages in Madagascar, which supplies most of the world's vanilla. A 4-ounce bottle of good pure vanilla extract now runs $8 to $15 depending on the brand. Imitation vanilla, which is made from a synthetic compound called vanillin, does not have the same longevity and loses its flavor profile over time. It also doesn't behave the same way in baking. I started buying pure vanilla extract in 8-ounce bottles whenever I find it on sale. I keep 2 or 3 bottles. Because this price is not coming back down, supply chain issues with vanilla beans are ongoing and not resolved. If you bake at all, birthday cakes, cookies, anything, this is a real household expense that is quietly getting more painful every year. Stock up on the real thing. It won't go bad, and the price trajectory is only going one direction. Item number 6. Dried beans. Here's where we get into something that I think is underappreciated in the American pantry conversation. Dried beans stored properly will last 25 to 30 years. Pinto beans, black beans, kidney beans, chickpeas, lentils. If you seal them properly with oxygen absorbers in food-grade containers, you essentially have protein stored for decades. The nuance I want to share here is about quality over time. After about 5 years, dried beans don't become unsafe. They just become harder to rehydrate. They'll still cook. They'll still have nutritional value. They'll just require longer soaking and cooking time. That's a meaningful distinction. They don't expire. They age. Beans at Walmart right now. A 2-pound bag of pinto beans is under $2. Lentils are similarly cheap. But commodity food prices follow energy prices and agricultural disruption, and both of those are unpredictable right now. I personally keep a rotation of about 40 pounds of assorted dried beans in 5-gallon buckets. That sounds like a lot. It took me about 6 months to build that up slowly, buying 1 or 2 bags every grocery run. The practical angle here is protein. If you're concerned about food costs, animal protein prices are volatile and trending up. Dried beans are one of the most affordable, complete protein sources available, especially when combined with rice. Together, they form a complete amino acid profile. This is what people in generations before us called a staple. We forgot why they mattered. We're being reminded now. Item number 7. Maple syrup. I know what you're thinking, and yes, this one is real. Pure maple syrup in a sealed container has an indefinite shelf life. Like honey, it is a high-sugar, low-moisture environment that prevents microbial growth. An unopened bottle of pure maple syrup will outlast your kitchen cabinets. The important word is pure. Pancake syrup, the stuff like Aunt Jemima or Log Cabin, is not maple syrup. It's high-fructose corn syrup with artificial maple flavoring. That product has a shorter effective shelf life and a completely different storage profile. Pure maple syrup, once opened, should be refrigerated and used within a year, but unopened, it keeps indefinitely. The price situation here mirrors vanilla. Pure maple syrup has gotten more expensive over the past 3 years because of weather volatility affecting the maple harvest in Canada and the northeastern United States. Prices at specialty grocers and even Costco have moved noticeably. If you use maple syrup regularly, on pancakes, in oatmeal, in baking, in marinades, buying an extra bottle or two when it's on sale is a genuine money move. You're not hoarding, you're buying before the price goes up. Store it sealed at room temperature or in a cool pantry. That's it. Think about your actual weekly consumption and build from there. Even 2 extra bottles represents months of savings at current trends. Item number 8. Distilled spirits. This is the one I mentioned at the beginning, and I'll be honest, when I first looked into this, I thought I was misreading the information. Distilled spirits with 40% alcohol by volume or higher, whiskey, vodka, rum, gin, brandy, do not expire, ever. An unopened bottle of whiskey sitting in a cellar for 100 years is safe to drink and will taste essentially the same as the day it was bottled. That's not folklore. Distillers, chemists, and food scientists confirm it. The alcohol content prevents any form of spoilage. There is no bacterial or fungal growth possible at that concentration. Once opened, spirits begin a very slow oxidation process that can change the flavor profile slightly over years, but they remain safe and drinkable indefinitely. Now here's why this is on a food storage list, because I know some of you are wondering. First, spirits have real utility beyond consumption. They can sanitize wounds, start fires, serve as a cooking ingredient, and function as a trade or barter item in genuine emergency scenarios. That's not a paranoid take. That's historical reality. Second, and this is the part that really got my attention, the prices of certain spirits are tracking upward significantly. Bourbon in particular has seen double-digit price increases over the past few years because of barrel aging delays that go back to the pandemic. Bottles that were $40 are now $60 or $80. I looked into this for months. The supply won't normalize for years because aged spirits require time you cannot manufacture. If you drink and enjoy whiskey or brandy, buying now at current prices and storing sealed bottles is financially rational. This isn't about vice, this is about arithmetic. Item number 9. Cornstarch. Stay with me on this one because I almost left it off the list and I'm glad I didn't. Pure cornstarch, no additives, has an indefinite shelf life when stored dry. It is chemically stable. It doesn't break down. It doesn't go rancid. It doesn't support any biological growth because it contains virtually no moisture. The reason cornstarch earns a spot here is how many things it does. It thickens sauces, gravies, soups, and pies. It's used in baking. It's used in homemade cleaning products. It has uses in personal care. It's a natural powder that can replace cornstarch-based commercial products. Cornstarch right now is incredibly cheap. A large box is under $2. But corn is an agricultural commodity, and agricultural commodity prices are one of the more unpredictable consumer inflation variables right now given fertilizer prices, fuel costs, and export dynamics. I keep several boxes in a sealed container with a lid. It takes up almost no space, it costs almost nothing, and it's one of the most versatile pantry items per dollar of any food I can think of. The practical takeaway is simple: buy 3 or 4 extra boxes on your next trip. Transfer them into an airtight container if you want maximum longevity. Label them. Forget about them. When you need to thicken a sauce 2 years from now, you will have exactly what you need, and you'll have paid today's price. Item number 10. Soy sauce. This one genuinely surprised me when I dug into it, and I've been buying accordingly for about a year. Soy sauce, unopened, sealed, has an indefinite shelf life due to its extremely high sodium content. Salt is one of the oldest preservatives in history, and soy sauce is essentially a salt-saturated fermented liquid. Microorganisms cannot establish themselves in that environment. Once opened, soy sauce should be refrigerated for best quality, and will stay good for at least 2 to 3 years, often longer. But the unopened bottle? It does not expire. Here's the part that got my attention from a budget perspective. Soy sauce is one of the most umami-dense, flavor-packed condiments you can stock. A tablespoon of soy sauce does more work in a dish than almost any other pantry ingredient per unit of cost. Kikkoman, La Choy, store brands. They're all shelf-stable indefinitely when sealed. And soy sauce prices have been creeping up as a downstream effect of wheat and soybean price volatility. I now keep a small collection of soy sauce bottles, both regular and low sodium, on a pantry shelf. They take up almost no space. They add genuine flavor flexibility to everything from stir-fries to marinades to salad dressings to soup. The viewers who laughed at this item will notice the price difference in 2 years. The viewers who stocked up today won't. Item number 11. Instant coffee. I want to be upfront about something here because I know coffee drinkers have strong opinions. Instant coffee is not the same as ground or whole bean coffee in terms of quality. Most serious coffee drinkers won't touch it. I understand that completely. But I'm not talking about your daily morning ritual. I'm talking about shelf-stable caffeine and comfort for situations where your normal routine is disrupted, whether that's a power outage, a travel situation, or a period of tight finances. Unopened instant coffee stored in a dry, cool environment has a shelf life of 15 to 20 years, and some sources suggest longer when vacuum sealed. It doesn't go bad. It may lose some flavor intensity over years, but it remains safe and functional. Coffee prices have been one of the more dramatic consumer inflation stories of the last 2 years. Arabica coffee futures hit multi-decade highs in 2024, and prices at retail have followed. This is not resolving quickly. Climate disruption in Brazil and Vietnam, the two largest producers, continues to affect harvest yields. I started keeping a couple of large tins of Folgers or Nescafe Instant in the back of my pantry, not as my primary coffee, as a backup, as something I never have to think about. If you're a coffee drinker, the math here is pretty straightforward. A tin of instant coffee costs $6 to $10 and contains dozens of servings. Buying an extra tin or two now means you're insulated from whatever the price is doing next year. Your morning cup is not something you want to be negotiating with your budget about. Stock up. Item number 12, baking soda. This is one of the most overlooked items in the entire pantry storage conversation, and I think it's because people underestimate how many things it actually does. Pure baking soda, sodium bicarbonate, has an indefinite shelf life when kept dry and sealed. It is a chemically simple compound that does not degrade under normal storage conditions. The uses are genuinely wide-ranging. It's a leavening agent for baking. It neutralizes acids in cooking. It's a cleaning agent for surfaces, pots, and drains. It deodorizes refrigerators, carpets, and shoes. It can be used as a gentle abrasive cleaner. It has first aid applications for minor skin irritations and insect stings. What I've noticed in the last year or two is that the large 5-pound bags of baking soda at Costco and Sam's Club represent extraordinary value per unit because the price per ounce drops dramatically at that size. I now buy the large format. I keep one in the kitchen for cooking, one under the sink for cleaning, and one in the pantry as backup. The total cost is under $10. The combined utility of those 3 bags over the next several years is hard to calculate. A lot of people are trying to reduce their household product budget right now. Baking soda is one of those rare items that genuinely replaces multiple more expensive products. That's a real money conversation. Buy the big bag. You will use every ounce of it. Item number 13, powdered milk. I'll admit this was not on my original radar until I started talking to people who had lived through periods of genuine food scarcity. Not in other countries, but here in America, during job losses, during natural disasters, during the early weeks of COVID when shelves were stripped. Powdered milk stored in a sealed, airtight container in a cool, dark place has a shelf life of 20 to 25 years. That number comes from tested food storage research, not guesswork. The fat in whole milk is what degrades over time, which is why non-fat dry milk lasts significantly longer than whole-fat varieties. The non-fat version stored properly approaches that 25-year mark. Powdered milk reconstitutes with water. It doesn't taste identical to fresh milk, I won't pretend otherwise, but it works for cooking, for baking, for cereals, for sauces, and for situations where fresh dairy is unavailable or unaffordable. Dairy prices are volatile. Anyone who buys milk regularly has noticed the swings over the last several years, and fresh dairy requires refrigeration, which means it's dependent on a functioning power grid. I keep a large can of non-fat dry milk in my pantry. It costs me around $15 for a substantial quantity. I've used it in baking several times, and it performs identically to fresh milk in those applications. The viewers with young children will understand why this belongs on the list immediately. Everyone else should think about what happens when fresh dairy gets expensive or scarce for a week. One can solve that problem completely. Item number 14. Ghee is clarified butter. Butter that has had its water and milk solids removed through a slow cooking process, and because of what's been removed, it becomes shelf-stable in a way that regular butter simply is not. An unopened jar of commercial ghee stored at room temperature has a shelf life of 1 to 2 years, but in the refrigerator or freezer, it lasts significantly longer, and many traditional food cultures have kept homemade ghee for years at room temperature without issue because the clarification process removes what spoils. Here's why ghee is earning a spot on this list in 2026 specifically. Butter prices have been high and volatile. Ghee, being more concentrated and shelf-stable, gives you a way to lock in a dairy fat at a reasonable price point and have it available for a much longer period than fresh butter allows. Ghee has a higher smoke point than butter, which means it's excellent for high-heat cooking. It imparts a rich, nutty flavor, and it's widely available now. Costco carries large containers at competitive pricing, and it's no longer a specialty item. I switched to keeping ghee as a pantry staple about 18 months ago, partly for the flavor, and partly because I got tired of losing half a butter stick to spoilage when I wasn't baking regularly. If you cook with butter, for eggs, for vegetables, for pan sauces, ghee is a direct substitute that gives you more flexibility, more shelf life, and increasingly comparable cost per use. This is not a niche item anymore. It belongs in every pantry. Item number 15. Hard liquor vinegar and fermented condiments. I want to close this list with something that ties together several threads we've been pulling throughout this video. There is a category of fermented and acid-preserved condiments: whole grain mustard, fish sauce, certain aged hot sauces, apple cider vinegar with the mother, that have extremely long shelf lives because of their natural preservative chemistry, and most people are dramatically underutilizing them. Fish sauce, for instance, is essentially a salt-fermented fish liquid with a sodium content so high that it's self-preserving. An open bottle in the refrigerator lasts 2 to 3 years easily. Unopened, the shelf life is essentially indefinite. It costs $3 to $4 for a bottle that will flavor dozens of meals. Whole grain mustard in sealed jars keeps for 1 to 2 years at room temperature and much longer refrigerated because of its vinegar and salt content. It doesn't require the cold chain to be safe. It requires it only for optimal quality. Apple cider vinegar with the mother, the Bragg variety is the most well-known, has an indefinite shelf life and has been cited extensively for both culinary and household uses. The mother culture at the bottom is a living bacterial colony that stabilizes the pH and prevents any harmful growth. What I want you to see in this last item is a pattern. The foods that last forever share common chemistry: high salt, high acid, high sugar, low moisture, or high alcohol. When you understand that pattern, you stop following expiration dates blindly and start understanding why certain foods last and others don't. That knowledge is worth more than any single item on this list. Here's the thread running through all 15 of these items. The foods that last forever are not fancy. They are not trend items. They are not the products being advertised to you on television or pushed through social media. They are the ingredients that human civilizations figured out thousands of years ago, the things that kept people fed through harsh winters, long voyages, difficult years: salt, vinegar, honey, dried legumes, fermented liquids, pure spirits, concentrated fats. We live in a time when most of us have outsourced our food security entirely to just-in-time supply chains, to refrigerators that depend on an uninterrupted power grid, to store shelves that assume a working distribution network. That's not a problem until it is, and when it becomes a problem, even briefly, even just for a week, the people who thought ahead aren't panicking. They're fine. They're calm. They're the ones their neighbors are calling. I'm not telling you to prepare for the end of the world. I'm telling you that a well-stocked pantry of foods that genuinely don't expire is one of the most rational, budget-smart, low-effort things you can do right now. Prices are going up. Supply chains are still unpredictable. And most people will wait until it's obvious, until the shelves are visibly thinned out, until the prices have already jumped, before they act. You don't have to be one of those people. You already know what's coming, because you came here to know. Start with 2 or 3 items from this list this week. Don't overhaul your pantry overnight. Just rotate in extras as you shop. Over 3 or 4 months, you will have built something genuinely valuable without really noticing the cost. That's what the smart shoppers do. They're patient, they're consistent, and they don't get caught off guard. If this video helped you think differently about your pantry, hit that like button. It tells me these deep dives are worth doing. Subscribe if you're not already here, because this channel is built around exactly this kind of insider knowledge. Next time, I'm going to show you the grocery store timing strategy that most people have never heard of, and it can cut your weekly bill by more than you'd expect without changing what you buy at all. Take care of yourself, take care of your people, and I'll see you in the next one.